Before this episode begins, we want to give you a trigger warning. We want you to know that the content of this episode speaks to pregnancy loss and miscarriages and/or a viable pregnancy. We understand this content may be triggering to some of you, and you may wish to save this episode for another day. Remember, your emotions are valid, and we encourage you to take care of yourself and reach out to reliable resources for support when you need them.
We absolutely put no pressure on people to return to a group. If you just need it one time to connect with people, it's all about what you want to take away. As much as I would like to think it's what you bring to the group as well. And I think there is an element of that where you always are going to bring something if you participate in the conversation. But if you desperately need to just listen and learn and not vent that week or not encourage that week, it's okay to just show up and just be there to be with other people who get it. These are your people. This is the community that we're building where you can find somebody else who's going through it too and go through it together. Don't do it alone.
Hi, superhumans. I'm Dr. Mavis Garcia.
And I'm Dr. Wise.
We're two of the physician leaders at Markham Fertility Center, otherwise known as our baby, MFC.
As fertility specialists, we've witnessed firsthand the challenges, triumphs, and the myriad of emotions that come with trying to conceive. Whether you're just starting to think about having a baby, actively trying, or facing challenges along the way, My Fertility Podcast will be your go-to resource for honest conversations and a supportive community.
So grab a cup of coffee or tea and settle in, and let's demystify the world of fertility together.
On today's episode of My Fertility Podcast, we welcome Erin and Tiffany, the co-founders of Oasis Fertility Support Network. Driven by their own personal struggles with infertility, Erin and Tiffany found each other within a community of like-minded individuals at a local support group. Their quest for hope and support became the inspiration behind Oasis Fertility Support Network, rooted in the firm belief that no one should endure the desert of infertility alone. As one of the rare, free-of-charge support group organizations across Canada, Oasis warmly embraces all who seek solace within a compassionate community. With currently 10 in-person support groups and 6 virtual support groups already in operation, the team has very ambitious plans for expansion, which we will be discussing today. Erin and Tiffany also host an incredible podcast called the Oasis Fertility Podcast, where they share real stories, including that of our own famous Dr. Mavis Garcia, of individuals who have navigated the complexities of infertility. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
So-
for having us.
So, Erin and Tiffany,
Mm.
tell us how you got here. Tell us about your stories and how you ended up creating this amazing thing called Oasis.
My story began 4 years ago. I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility, and I did about 4 rounds of IUI and 2 rounds of IVF. And today I have a son. I had 1 embryo that worked, and I'm sitting here very grateful and feeling very blessed to feeling like I'm on the other side. So, not sure if my journey is now complete. I do have some second frozen embryos from my second round of IVF. So, hopeful for the future. But as of right now, we're happy and blessed to have just 1 son. But 4 years ago, when I was really in the deep of infertility, I was feeling like I needed community, and I just didn't feel like I was able to connect. And I was just feeling very alone with my friends and family. And I just didn't think that they were understanding what I was going through. And so one day it's a funny little story, but I just went on Facebook and I wrote in a group and said, if anybody wants to connect at Starbucks at 6 p.m. on this date, and if you live in my city, come join me. And I really didn't expect anybody to come. And then 8 girls showed up that day. And from there, I built myself a small little community that I'm still friends with today. But in that little post, Erin had messaged and said, we're already running a very small fertility group. If you want to come join, it meets on this day. And I was like, okay. And then I went a couple of times to that group and really found like it was helping me find support and community. And I just fell in love with the person that Erin was, and just felt like I connected with who she was and what she was doing and how she was really helping support people in the community. And I just wanted to do the same. And so one day I just approached her and We sat in our car for like 3 hours and just chatted about the future and how maybe we could support the community that we were living within. And then that summer, we created Oasis.
We had a lot of coffee and a lot of snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think all good things start with coffee and snacks and maybe a little charcuterie.
Absolutely. I mean, and that goes into my story a little bit. So, where my support group experience was around a friend of mine who exactly did that. She started a group, a get together monthly where we could connect around coffee and snacks and just talk about our journeys and our fertility journeys and how hard it was. And it was for me on my 10-year fertility journey, which it was very long. It was very exhausting. There were a lot of times where I felt like I can't keep going, where I felt like I'm done, I'm going to give up because I just don't want to do this anymore. And we had male factor. I was doing all of the things to my body to try and create this, perfect period and the perfect environment and driving myself absolutely nuts, trying to be perfect and make sure that it works. And then IUIs failed. And I was like, wait a minute, how is that possible? We have donor sperm. How is it possible that IUIs are failing? And then moving on to IVF is really when I felt like I needed that community the most. And so having a space to go once a month and just talk to other people who were also, in the thick of it, who really understood all of the different acronyms that we were using and all the names of the medication, and they understood the cost of the medication, and we could all kind of just vent a little bit about, maybe this baby shower that we didn't want to go to on the weekend because it was too hard. And so that support group, I feel, was just what got me to the end of my journey and just gave me the strength to keep going. And after I had success with my final embryo, the only one that we had left that was tested that did result in a live birth in May 2021, I came back and I had the opportunity to lead the group at that point. And that's when I saw Tiffany posting on Facebook and I said, don't start another group. Don't worry. We're here for you. Come on over. And that, I think it was that month, it was around the early summer. And so we had a bonfire, the location where the Berry group meets, we have a fire pit. And so we had a little bonfire and so many women came out that night and it was just an amazing conversation. And I had this overwhelming feeling that we have to do this group on a bigger scale. We need to replicate this group so that there is a group like this where people can find community in their town with other people who are going through this in every major city across Canada. And so that's really where Oasis birthed out of, is we started getting together and talking about how can we do this on a bigger scale? How can we do more? How can we reach more people and provide that support from peers for free? That's how it all began.
I
Yeah,
love that so much. I learned about Oasis from one of my patients because I usually ask my patients, okay, who are you talking to? Who is your support? What are you doing?
Yep.
And she told me, of course, we cannot say her name, but I know you know who you're talking about. But yeah, so she told me about Oasis, and I immediately went on the website and I bought my sweater with the little pink pineapple.
Yeah.
And I'm really impressed by what you guys are doing. And I'm particularly impressed by the fact that you seem to both have completed your journey through fertility, but yet you're willing to go back and almost, I don't know if I'm accurate to say, but in some way re-experience things or become vulnerable again, or, continue to be a source of support for the community, which, I mean, I don't want to speak for yourself, but sometimes it could be hard because there's a lot of people who finish a journey and they just want to disconnect. They don't want to hear about it anymore. They don't want to talk about it. They're like, I did this hard thing. I survived. I'm on the other side. Now I'm a
Yeah.
mom and I just want to go on with my life. And nothing wrong with that for people who need to do that to heal. But I love that you're able to still be connected to the community and provide that kind of space.
I think a big part of it for me is that I would have loved to have more children, but I had made a decision, pretty hard stake in the ground when I had that final embryo. If this one doesn't go forward with a live birth, I'm done. I'm still done. And so at that point, I had created a life in my mind that I was really comfortable living with if it didn't work so that I could get through it, because I felt like that was the only way I was going to survive that transfer. And that other side included this piece where I wanted to support the community because I felt like
Mm.
it was one thing I could do. Like, I'm going to live through this crap for 10 years. I want to make sure that it doesn't all just end for nothing. Even if I don't get a baby, I want to make sure that there's a possibility that I can continue to pour back into that community in some way. And so, I mean, support group was just a very obvious way because it was such a big part of both of our stories. And so I think for me, it's been incredibly healing actually to come back and to lead and to leave a little bit of that wound open and experience a little bit of that grief. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be part of my story, that journey that I lived on and that journey that Tiffany's still living on. And I think it's just so helpful. At least it has been for me. And we're getting the same message from our conversation starters, the women who are currently leading our support groups. I say women because we don't have a men's group yet, but it is coming. But for the folks who are leading our groups, they're all giving us the same feedback. This is so helpful to heal from my journey and to be able to hold space for those who are still going through it.
I was
So,
just going to say that it's been very healing being able to speak about it in support groups still and just to hear other people's stories and just to hear the feedback that we've been getting. It's very healing. And I can't even just imagine a world now where my life doesn't revolve around fertility. So I think it was put in our lives for a reason. And this just kind of blew up, I think, very quickly. And I'm just happy for where it's going and how much people we're connecting with and we're supporting. So
Remarkable, really, your story. I think the fact that you have taken something that was difficult and challenging and really turned it into something so beautiful, right? It's like taking the coal and turning it into a diamond almost. And that it's become now a part of your healing journeys as well, which is a really beautiful thing to see. So we talked about the birth, as you said, of Oasis, but where are you guys at now? What's the current state of Oasis? Tell us about that.
Oasis is a non for profit organization that is helping people through the very beginning stage of infertility until they get to the stage of postpartum within support groups. So, right now, we're in about 9 cities and we got about 6 virtual support groups.
some of our groups are specialized that are virtual. The in person groups are all for infertility. And then we have groups that are virtual, yes, still for infertility, so that if you're not having a group in your town currently, you can join the virtual group. It also helps us know where the greatest need is for groups when we see what cities the people who are coming to the virtual infertility group are from. So we can target those cities for locations and conversation starters so that we can host a group there hopefully soon. We're getting inquiries on a weekly basis right now of, is there a group in my town? Can we start a group in my town? How can I help? We have locations in some towns, but nobody to lead the group. And we have leaders in some towns, but nobody to host the group, a location. So we are looking for free locations and people who are over their fertility journey to host these groups. So reach out to us if that sounds like something you'd be interested in and you're listening to this. But our specialized groups that are virtual exist for not just infertility, but secondary infertility. They exist for pregnancy after infertility, postpartum after infertility, intended moms who are using surrogates to start their families. And then we are just starting a single moms by choice group as well next month. So that's an exciting one too. And those groups are going to continue to expand and grow into more sort of specialized groups for virtual.
So, if
Amazing.
there's a patient who is looking for a support group, what do they need to do to find one or get in to see one?
You can visit any of our social medias or our website just under our support group, either on our Instagram, there'll be a link there, or just on our website under support group. You will see the link to sign up. And then we will send you an email with all the information of what location you have picked. Or if you picked virtual, we'll send you a Zoom link. And it's completely free for anybody on their journeys.
And is there a commitment? Do the patients have to commit to attend every session, or patients just can attend how they feel like it?
They can attend whenever they feel like it. We absolutely put no pressure on people to return to a group. If you just need it one time to connect with people, it's all about what you want to take away. As much as I would like to think it's what you bring to the group as well. And I think there is an element of that where you always are going to bring something if you participate in the conversation. But if you desperately need to just listen and learn and not vent that week or not encourage that week, it's okay to just show up and just be there to be with other people who get it. And there's no pressure to return. But obviously, our hope is that you find some people that you want to return with or that you want to connect with, even outside of the group. We're big on encouraging people to connect with other people outside of the group, meet regularly, get to know one another. These are your people. This is the community that we're building where you can find somebody else who's going through it too and go through it together. Don't do it alone.
Yeah. And how about the conversation starters? Those are the moderators of the group, right? What criteria are you looking for and how can somebody get involved?
There's no real criteria. We will help support you and train you for your group, but we just ask that you are either done your fertility journey or at least taking a pause for 12 months of a commitment. But really, just about anybody could run a support group as long as you have gone through a journey of fertility, because it's just important that it's led by a peer who has been through what you're currently going through as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The lived experience is very key in being able to provide the support that those who are attending need. And that's really the prerequisite that you've been through it and that you get it and that you're in this position to hold space for others and be the container. Because if we're going to be the container, we can also be in the container. And so we want to hold space. And that's why we call them conversation starters, because they're there to start the conversation and then just hold the space so that people can have the conversation with them in the room. Our in person groups also have a little mini library at every group. So people can show up once a month and borrow a fertility book. So we have little mini fertility book libraries so you can borrow a book. We have encouraging resources. There's a new member welcome bag when you show up to a group for the first time. So you go home with resources that are all supportive to your fertility journey, including all donated swag from a bunch of fertility industry partners who give us like eye masks and chapstick and ice packs for the IO shots and all of those fun things. So you go home from the group for the first time in person with something that's supportive to your journey, including a wellness book that we wrote that it has all kinds of wellness resources and grounding exercises and mental health resources that are supportive to a person's fertility journey.
That
And if
is
you're
fantastic.
And if you're on the side of a conversation starter, we also have a guidebook that will help you walk you through every step of starting your own group. But we help you find your location and we help you get started. And we have a ton of meetings and we have a Sunday night call that everybody participates in so that you're always feeling supported within your group. So if you're out there and you're interested, no requisites and you could just come and join us.
That sounds great. I guess I don't qualify to be a conversation starter because I'm a fertility specialist, but if I wasn't, I would definitely be doing that.
I'm just amazed at how big and how structured this is and how this must be a huge part of your lives. Like in terms of time and effort. Like, wow, like I'm so amazed that you guys are doing this. That's really quite remarkable. As you're going through this, what are the challenges that you guys have faced in terms of actually starting an Oasis?
There's definitely been highs and lows in the last 18 months since we incorporated. Our charitable status, which we are working on, is a challenge currently where we're just trying to get some answers and it's hard getting answers, but we will have that eventually. Another challenge has just been the need. I think we both went into this knowing that the need was great, knowing that there was not enough support on the mental and emotional health journey through infertility. And so I don't think we knew the depths of it until we really got into this. We have capacity, we have only so much capacity. We both do this as volunteer work along with our board of directors, which is at 8 people currently. I think we're at a total right now of 23 volunteers in our organization, and nobody is paid to do any part of our work. And so, yeah, a challenge for sure is just managing those people and doing it in our spare time. But we're so dedicated to this and we just know the need is so great. Again, the more we get into it, the more we see and the more we get inquiries about, is there a group in my town? When is there one starting? I need this support now. And so, yeah, we're just going to run as hard as we have to, I think, to to get to where we can support as many people as possible on their journey. It's so important. It's so important. And obviously for free. We just never want there to be a cost associated to being part of our membership or being part of our support groups or part of any of our programs.
I think it's worth mentioning that again, that it is absolutely free because unfortunately, there's not a lot of free support available. I mean, counseling is great, but it costs money. A lot of the coaching that costs quite a bit as well. So I think it's really worth mentioning is a completely free resource with no commitment on the part of the patients ever to do more than what they're ready to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just about people really wanting to support people on their journeys.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's just community. We couldn't get through it without community. So we just want to provide community for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about what is next for Oasis. What is the big dream?
I'm going to let you answer this because I know you're just excited for it. We have really big plans.
Yeah, we do. I mean, right now, all of our support groups operate in Ontario, but we have big plans to go across the country and have a support group in every province. And I mean, in every major city, that's sort of the way I keep phrasing it. But once we get into all the major cities, we'll start getting into the smaller cities because there's people everywhere that are experiencing infertility. And so to grow across Canada is a very big dream, and to have a support group in every major city in our country. And then next to that, we have our podcast, which I don't know if we've mentioned that so far, but we do have a podcast as well. It's called the Oasis Fertility Podcast. I know it's super original. And we just tell stories. We've had people through our groups. We've had some of our conversation starters share their stories. We had Dr. Mavis Garcia on to share
Yes.
her story. It
Yes.
was amazing. And so our podcast is just telling stories of infertility. When we look at the levels of support that we think people need when they're on this fertility journey, we want to provide multi levels of support and look at whole person care. So we're there to provide the emotional and mental health support, but some people don't necessarily they're not group ready. They're not ready to get into a support group where they have to see people and talk about their story or share something. And so we wanted to provide other levels of support that's sort of like entry level, or maybe somewhere between just listening to our podcast and hearing a story so that you don't feel alone on that day or on that week, and something that's sort of between that and the in-depth support group. So we do have a new program coming. I'm not allowed to speak about it yet because the launch is actually coming at the tea party. So we will be talking about it very soon. You'll be hearing a lot from us, but we are working on a program that's going to be more regular, that's going to include a lot of experts. It's going to include a lot of information, but also mental health support more on a weekly basis. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay. Okay. So about the tea party, let's get
Yeah.
into it.
Anyway.
Yeah, so it's going to be on June 9th at the King Eddie Hotel in Toronto. And it is from 1 until 3. And you can buy your tickets right now on our website at OasisFSN.com.
Yeah, it's going to go beyond 3. It's going to go to 4 for sure. We have the room until then. We're going to party all afternoon. There's going to be an amazing silent auction, which we're getting a lot of donations for, some really good prizes you can bid on. There's going to be a photo booth, which is amazingly sponsored by My Fertility Podcast. Thank you, ladies, so much for that.
You are very welcome. We're so excited to be there.
Yeah.
I have to say, though, it's a gorgeous venue, and they
It
do an amazing high tea service at the King Edward Hotel.
It's
I actually got
connected
married
now.
at the King Edward Hotel,
Wow.
so it has a very special place in my heart.
That's
Oh,
amazing. I love that.
What is everybody wearing to this tea party?
What is everybody wearing? I would say picture Kentucky Derby, picture Melbourne Cup. We're off to the races. We're having high tea. It's going to be, I mean, I wouldn't say formal wear, but definitely fancy wear. I plan to include some ruffles in my outfit and definitely fancy hats, fascinators, big hats, as fancy as you want to get on the hats, because we do have a prize for the fanciest hat. I really like that word fancy, so I use
So
it a lot.
cool. Well, I got my fascinator ready to go. I bought it on Amazon.
Amazing.
Section. And yeah, I love it. It has like a net
Oh,
and it has
I
the
like it.
feathers.
Amazing.
And I got it dressed with like a big puffy sort of sleeves.
Oh, I love
And
it.
yeah, I'm super excited for it.
That's
Tell us
exciting.
why this tea party is so important, because all the amazing things that you're doing, you want to provide everything for free. You want to go across the country. You want to make sure that everybody's well trained. You give the swag bags to your participants. These things cost money, right?
Yeah, they do. And even just our marketing alone, where we advertise our support groups is in clinics. And so we pay a lot of money to print material so that you can take something home with you from a clinic, so that you can see a tent card that says find a support group, and with a QR code that you can scan. That costs a lot of money. And then it costs us about $500 to start a new support group, just in terms of getting the library, buying the materials, the new member bags, the printing, and all of that. Sometimes the shipping costs. We have a group starting in Kingston this month. We had to ship her box to her because we weren't
Mhm.
going to drive all the way there to deliver that one. But if it's more local, we do deliver the kits to our new conversation starters. But yeah, that does all cost money. And just the general running costs of an organization, the website and Canva, all of that
Mhm.
stuff, it adds up. And so
Mhm.
our fundraising goal for the tea party is $40,000. And that goal will just help us exist. It'll just help us run. On top of that, we are going after grants. We're looking for support from local organizations who want to give back to community organizations. We took part in Flora's Walk a few weeks ago, where we were able to fundraise through the perinatal mental health collaboration walk that they do. And we've just been also very supported by some donors to help us get going. So it's hard work. We're fundraising on top of all of the operations, but we are having fun doing it. And I mean, I just can't even say how rewarding it truly is to see the support coming in, to see people catching the fire, so to speak, of what we're doing and what we're building and how we're supporting people. It's just exciting. And that definitely fires me up. It gets me going and excited to just keep doing the work because, yeah, it doesn't feel like we have a whole lot to lose. We're going forward. And that's exciting for sure.
Yeah, there is definitely a fire to the two of you. And I can see your expression every time you talk about it. It really is like your baby, so to speak. So tell me about the Oasis. Where did that name come from and what does it mean?
It took a long time for us to
A
land on
long
the
time.
perfect name. I'll tell you because it's a funny story. So I was sitting on well, I'll just be really honest.
TMI.
I was sitting on the toilet one day, and this is when
All
all
best
best
ideas come from
ideas
the
come from
toilet.
there. That's true. And on the back of my bathroom door, there was a towel from my son, and it had these cute little doggies on surfboards and on little islands and everything. And the thought that popped into my mind was, it looks like that dog is on an oasis. And I have no idea where that word came from. It popped into my
It
mind.
was meant to be.
It's a popular word for organizations and for food and beverage service things. But I was like, I wonder what the definition of that is. And so I went straight to the World Wide Web. And the definition of oasis is a fertile place in the desert where water is found. And I just was like mind blown in that moment. Okay, it's not just the place in the desert where you find water, it's actually a fertile ground,
Yeah.
which is even more amazing because we hope that the hope that you find in that dry place of the desert, the water that we can be to people, that space that we can hold so that people find hope actually is fertile as well as hopeful. Not that we could ever make a promise that you're going to get pregnant if you come to a support group, but at least we hope that the people you find, the community you find, give you the strength to keep going. At the end of the day, that is like, if you get just that out of connecting with other people, then that would be just amazing.
Oh, I love it. It's a perfect meaning behind the name. Absolutely. I can see why you landed on that name. So how long did it take you to get to that name? Apparently it was like quite a
A long
A
time.
long
Like
quite a
time.
struggle
had
to get there.
we had one name for quite a while, and then that name just didn't work out for us. And then it took us like months to be able to change it and really connect with the name. And then when you said Oasis and you just gave the explanation of it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's what we've been looking for. That's how we're going to connect with it. We just loved it right off the bat.
Yeah.
So
And in the time it took us to land on the name, we had so much time to just let the idea and the vision of the organization sort of marinate, we'll say. So there was that happening while we were frustrated about not having the right name. But so much evolved in that time because we had some space to just think about what do we want this to be and how do we want it to look and how are we going to go about it. And so creating policy, creating process, building our guidebook, building our conversation starter workbook, all of that happened in that period of time. And I do feel like it was probably a timing thing. We needed the perfect timing until we needed the perfect name. And so we just trust the process. And as much as it maybe put us back 6 months, it also gave us some space to just allow the organization to evolve. And I've said this a million times. We're all the heart of Oasis. Nobody is like the person who's Oasis or started Oasis. Like Tiffany and I are the co-founders, but there are two other directors on our board who are founding directors. There are other members of our board who are founding directors who have been there from the beginning. They were part of support group. They said, whatever we can do, we want to be part of this. And we've brought them all along. and they're still part of it today. And so it's not just us, there's a whole army of us
Right.
who are behind this, who are behind the creativity, who are behind the support groups and the ideas. And we rely so much on
We
the
wouldn't be able to
board
do it without our support
without the
system,
team.
without the
Yeah.
team, for sure.
Yeah.
If we've learned anything, it's that you definitely need a team and you need peers and you need to all support each other and have the same vision. And we're so blessed and so lucky that we have found those people who just really believe in the vision and are putting in the work day and night to really
Hmm.
get it going and get it moving. And
Yeah.
we're super lucky, but we wouldn't be able to have Oasis without our support system.
No, it definitely takes a village. Like,
Oh, for
it's the
sure.
same for me in my position running MFC. It's never one person. It's like
Never.
the million people working together that creates the magic.
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly.
Exactly.
For
Exactly.
sure. So you asked me a question when I interview for your podcast, and I'm gonna ask you the same question. It's payback time. My question is, having been through everything that you've both been through, both your own fertility journeys and also seeing so many fertility journeys as part of your work with Oasis, what advice would you give to someone who is not in Oasis? She's in the middle of the desert right now, with
Mhm.
not even like seeing that there is a possibility out there of finding an oasis or finding hope. What would you say to her or him?
I would say hang in there, believe in yourself. You can do incredible things. Believe in what your body is capable and find a community or the support system that's going to help you along the way. Sometimes these journeys are really short and sometimes they're really long, but with having people who truly understand what you're going through, I think that's the only way you're truly going to be able to get through it. So just find yourself a support system in case you're in it for the long run, just to help guide you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I would say take it one day at a time. Yeah, I come back to this a lot. And some days you have to take it 1 minute at a time when you're waiting for that phone call to hear about, did this work? What were my numbers today? Take it one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, and distract yourself as much as you have to. And don't feel guilty about that because a distraction can be a positive thing. You don't have to be completely all consumed by this. You can read a good book, go for a walk, meet a friend for coffee, and distract yourself so that the minutes go by faster, the
Mhm.
days go by faster in those times where it is really hard.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much, guys. I'm very excited for the tea party. Marta and I will be there, and as well as some of our staff members join
Yeah.
us.
I love it. I want to say too, the tea party is a fertility sensitive event. So what that means to our community is that this is the one place you can go if you're still in the deep, if you're still struggling through infertility, where you're not going to be triggered in this environment. We have a request that there be no visible pregnant bellies or babies in the room so that it can be fertility sensitive and fertility safe for anybody who's going through treatment. We want our community to be welcomed into this room with open arms, feeling like this is the one place they can go where they know they're not going to run into a pregnant person or somebody nursing a baby, and it's going to be a safe place for the community. So we invite the patient community to this event so that you can meet some other people who are going through it. It might actually just be one big old support group on the day. We're going to have a
That's
panel where we have people talking about their experiences through support group so that you can get to know what it's all about and how it's impacting people.
I did not notice that on the website, and I think that's very smart and very, very good to do that because we all know what it's like when you're in it to be sort of reminded, right, of your own inability to conceive. So
Yeah.
that's very, very thoughtful of you guys. I can't wait. It's going to be my first tea party, but I'm
Woo!
already getting super excited about it.
I just got the menu yesterday. It looks amazing.
I love a good tea party, and especially a tea party like this when it's about supporting the community.
Totally. Well,
So
thanks so much for all the support.
it's our pleasure. I'm really, really impressed by the work that you guys are doing. You can always have friends and family members that care about you, but there's something so special about sharing it with people that have been there, right? Like it's just never the same as to being with people who truly get it. It's very hard to get it unless you have experienced it yourself.
And you don't
Yeah.
have to go through it alone. There are other
Hmm.
people out there. There's so many of us. The more we're into this, the more I realize how many people actually go through infertility.
Oh, yeah. I cannot go to any social event and introduce myself. And people ask me what I do. And if I say I'm a fertility specialist, you bet there's going to be three people asking me something,
Yeah.
from very minor to like, I've been trying for a month. Am I getting it right? To more in depth, like, I've done all of these things. And what do you think? So I'm used to it by now. It is so common. No matter where you go, you're going to find somebody who's struggling.
And that's a wrap for today, Superhumans.
If you're looking to connect, get social with us. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at My Fertility Podcast or visit us online at markandfertility.com. And don't forget, follow, subscribe, and share your favorite episode.
Thanks for listening to My Fertility Podcast and for being a vital part of our community. We know you've got this.
We're signing off until next Tuesday.
If you found this episode of My Fertility Podcast helpful, please take a moment to head over to the review section and leave us your thoughts. Your reviews and comments are incredibly valuable to us and help guide future episodes. We also welcome you to direct your questions to info@myfertilitypodcast.com.
My Fertility Podcast is produced by Rabbit Media Inc. in conjunction with Dr. Garcia and Dr. Weiss. Music from Mix Kit Raising Me Higher by Ajay Stelino. My Fertility Podcast is not intended to replace any type or variation thereof professional medical, health, or legal advice, nor should the content be taken as medical advice. Please contact your primary healthcare professional regarding any medical questions you may have. The information presented in this podcast is based on the knowledge and understanding of the host at the time of recording. Medical knowledge is constantly evolving, and new research may change the understanding of health-related topics. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we do not guarantee the completeness, accuracy, or timeliness of the content. The views expressed in this podcast by guests are not those of the host or the management. This podcast is not intended to impose any type of discrimination. My Fertility Podcast and its management are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast.